just don't think that the way you're going to think it's going to go is the way it's going to go. Because I believe that as we set out to change the world, there's only two things you know. There's, where you are today and where you're starting, and then you know where you want to go. That's it.
Right.
The path there is guaranteed. I can give it to you in writing, completely different than anything you ever thought.
Welcome to another episode of the People Hum interview series. I'm your host Akanksha Kulkarni, and let's begin with a quick introduction of People Hum. People Hum is an end-to-end, one-view integrated human capital management automation platform, the winner of the 2019 Global Cody Award for the HCM that is specifically built for crafted employee experiences and the future of work. We run the People Hum blog and the video channel, which receives upwards of 200,000 visitors a year and publish around 2 interviews with well-known names globally every month. And now for our guest, Beate Chelette is the CEO of the Chelette Enterprise Inc. She is a growth architect. Beate helps entrepreneurs and small business owners set up their business properly and achieve their growth goals in a systematic and simple way. Beate Chelette created the 5-star success blueprint that reveals the exact steps business owner needs to follow when they want to grow, build, and scale their businesses. Welcome, Beate. We are thrilled to have you.
Thank you so much for having me, Akanksha. I was looking forward to this interview.
Same here. I was excited for this too. So let's begin with our interview. And the first question that I would like to ask you is, can you just give us a little bit about your journey so far? Like, what brought you to the Chelette and entrepreneurs?
So my background is I'm an immigrant. I'm originally from Germany. Now I live in Los Angeles, and I come from a creative industry. So I'm a trained photographer, and went after I came to the United States. I had a photography degree. I was working as a photo editor at Elle magazine in Germany, and then I wanted to create my American dream and left for the United States and started working for a company, was laid off, and then started my own business. And that was my journey into entrepreneurship. And in this journey, I jokingly say I'm disaster proof, because this is now literally my 8th disaster. I have riots, fires, floods, mudslides, a tsunami, now a second set of riots, and the pandemic to add to it, September 11th, and a massive earthquake. So I feel that in the entrepreneurial journey of mine, a lot of it is really determined on, life happens in unexpected ways, just whenever you think you've just made it. And then something comes along and you have to somehow take a hard turn and figure out and how to do that. And so in my journey, I was at one point $135,000 in debt, a single mother, freshly divorced, lost everything, after September 11th, and, a series of just horrible things that happened to me. And then I had to figure out how to crack the code and get myself back out, and I had a bankruptcy attorney on my speed dial, and figure out how I'm going to make it back out. And then my father dies on top of everything, and I get thrown out of the house that I lived in. And I had written a letter to the President of the United States, along with a business plan that I had created, because, being a business owner and a woman leader, you always have to be ready. And so then I got a letter from the White House, and it put me in touch with the Small Business Administration here in Los Angeles, which is an organization, a government organization that helps businesses to build their businesses through government assistance and tips and tricks and connections to banks and finding funding. And so they helped me to restructure my debt, which opened up my line of credit, which got me to a break even within 3 months after I thought I was going to lose it all. And 18 months later, I'm the world leader in my industry, which was at the time Celebrity at Home Stories. So we licensed the rights to publish the stories of Madonna, Francis Ford Coppola, Simon Baker, Julianne Moore, Terry Hatcher, all over the world. And then a Bill Gates company came knocking on my door and said, we'd like to know how you do it. And like any good business owner, I said, if you want to know how I do it, you are going to have to buy this business. And then they said yes, and they made me an offer too good to refuse. And so from my worst moment to my best moment, it was only 18 months. And so afterward, I ran their, what became global, the director of global entertainment for that company. I did that for about 2 years. I recognized that there's really a huge discrepancy in how women are treated in corporations. And then I founded, again, my own business and the Women's Code, along with my system, the Growth Architect, and went out to help business owners to lead better and to run their businesses better.
Right. So it's been a roller coaster ride for you, but in the end, you've had the exceptional high that you could get. So,
Exactly.
yeah. So moving forward to our next question that I would like to ask you is, can you elaborate a little about leadership development? Like, what aspects do you look for, and how do you go about giving feedback to for leaders to change?
So this is really a super interesting and very timely thing to talk about right now, because in leadership, what we've traditionally seen is that all of our structures and systems are built by men for men.
Yeah.
And they work great for men. It's all about decision making, strategy, being a visionary, winning, competing, and profits, and making sure shareholders are taken care of. That works to a certain extent. But now that we see such an influx of minorities and women in the system, and at entry level, pretty much everywhere, we're either 50-50 or the number of women even exceeds the number of men that are in entry level positions. But then when we go to the top, we still see the discrepancy that there are barely any women and barely any minorities. Now, in these tragedies or in these disasters, on whether that's a pandemic, on whether that's a earthquake, a typhoon, a hurricane, whatever that might be, what we're seeing in leadership is the leaders that are really standing out are leaders that are possessing more female-centric attributes.
Yeah.
So you now have to show empathy. You have to be able to get people on the same page. You have to be more community focused. You have to be more collaborative. You have to think more about how do I give people hope and inspiration. That's really very typically associated with women leadership or
Yeah.
with a softer, non-traditional type of leadership. So I look in leaders for leaders that have the self-awareness and understanding to recognize what their innate style is and what the style is that they're still missing, and they're surrounding themselves with other leaders that they can bring in to take certain aspects of the conversation they cannot have. A hard charger who is super competitive is going to have a hard time to being showing empathy, which we're seeing in the United States right now in our leadership. But people need that empathy. So a good leader now would say, let's bring somebody in who has this empathy component, and I'm going to put that person in front of the microphone and share these statements, because you get the recognition by association. So I think in leadership right now, the type of leadership style we really need to look for in general is people who have more fluidity, that understand the continuum of male to female and female to male, so that we can arrive at gender neutral leadership.
Yeah, so then the diversity doesn't just needs to be with gender, it has to be about its opinions as well. So different kind of views are, which are gonna come to the table are gonna make you successful.
You're absolutely correct. Yes, that's exactly the summation.
Yeah. So like, is there anything specific, advice you might want to convey to the new age startup leaders? Like, if they want to constantly change the world around us.
Well, when just don't think that the way you're going to think it's going to go is the way it's going to go, because I believe that as we set out to change the world, there's only two things. There's where you are today and where you're starting, and then where you want to go. That's it.
Right.
The path there is guaranteed. I can give it to you in writing, completely different than anything you ever thought. So the advice I have is to remove yourself from judging the path that gets you there. Because that's where we see a lot of the conflict in business building, and especially with in the startup space, that they think they're going to go out, they're going to raise venture capital, they're going to take their $2 million, and they're going to go and do an IPO, and then they're going to be a billionaire, and the world is going to be just hunky-dory fine. Well, the number of companies that get venture capital funding is minuscule in the amount of, if you put it in relationship to the number of startups or the businesses that we see. Most businesses are bootstrapped. They have to find their own funding. So I think the advice is to don't judge how you're going to get there. Just trust that you are going to get there if you do the work mentally. I believe mindset is absolutely critical to success, and you're going to have to do the work. You're going to have to meet the people. You're going to have to network, and you have to allow that the miracle can happen.
Yeah, right. So that inner strength is really important for you. Your balance between the mind and your body, and also the strength to go about for it, to be ready to do the hard work. That's really important. You are going to get there, but it's just going to need you to do a little more than you usually do it.
Yes, exactly. And let me add to that. Oftentimes, I find that the problem of many business owners is the need for instant gratification. In business, it's a lot of times about delayed gratification. So if I would have wanted to make the money while I was building my business, I would have never been able to sell it and set it up the way I did. I set my business up as an equity business. I set it up so it was making money while I was not there. I set it up so it could be acquired. So I built the systems and the processes and the procedures, which is a lot more expensive and time consuming. So I wasn't making the money for a long time.
Yeah.
But then I was looking for delayed gratification. So this is really a decision anybody has to make. It's like, where do you want to be? And it's the same for leadership. You have to decide on whether you're in it for the long or whether you're in it for the now.
Yeah, so that really is about quality over quantity. So
Yes, you're absolutely correct, Akanksha.
yeah.
Yes.
So moving on to our next question. How do we set up an organization culture for a new organization? What do you think is really important for that?
Well, the culture has to start with what do you really believe in. So you can't say I am for a diverse, inclusive workforce, and then you yourself are racist. I mean, that just doesn't work. So don't look for buzzwords. Look for stuff that really, truly inspires you. And if you don't believe that diversity equals dollars or diversity equals euros or pounds or additional income, then don't make that your mantra. Don't make that your culture. But I believe that in the culture, it really is a combination of what you personally believe in, what you're here to try to change in the world or improve, the desire as a leader that you are to take as many people with you or not. And that's what the culture is based on. You can't say, I'm building a culture that is all inclusive and creates wealth for everybody who works for me. And then as you make money, you don't disperse the money to the people that you're working for, which was what we see a lot in America, which is how the middle class has been eradicated. Because the minute there's money made, that money goes to the shareholders. It doesn't go to the people that get you there. And now what we see in a disaster is that the people that are traditionally not recognized in these cultures, the drivers, the delivery drivers, the backroom stock managers, the people that are on the front line, the nurses, the people that are cleaning the hospitals and the facilities. Suddenly these people who we're paying pittance are the most important people in our chain right now to health, success, prosperity, and getting back to it. So in the culture that you build, you want to be very clear. Are you building a culture where you recognize that every single person in your organization, on whether it's the cleaner, or whether it's your CFO, is equally important, and compensate them equally to create that for everybody. That's, I think, the most important part about culture, is to do what you think is right,
Yeah,
but don't fake it.
correct. So it's all about people centricity. It's about people, it's about them, it's about hearing them and having that compassion towards them.
Yes, Akanksha, that's correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Have compassion for everybody, not just the people that you think are making you the dollars, the sales
Yeah.
guy. Yeah.
So, what sort of leadership styles do you believe in, like they become relevant in COVID times?
Well, that ties back into what we talked about earlier. Definitely balanced leadership. I call it balanced leadership for exactly the reason that I recognize that, and this is really part of my own journey. I think I was not really always a great boss, but I recognize that the way you show up is reflected in the way your people work and in the way the contributions your workforce makes. So if you don't get the results from your workforce, then you suck as a leader. So if you want to get people to engage, be creative and innovative, you're going to have to show up in such a way that inspires, encourages engagement, and provides an environment for creativity. So it's very simple. So the leadership style I believe in is honest, is to not say I want feedback, but to actually create processes and systems in place where you understand, back self-awareness. What am I really good at? Where am I not as good as? So when I was running my company, that one that I sold, I had brought in a controller. And because I'm a big picture person I was at the time, after my meetings, she had always an after meeting with the staff. So she explained to them what I had attempted to tell them, but clearly failed. And so as I watch her and I say, why do you do that? And she says, well, because you're not really clear what you want them to do. So I need to step in and help them understand and translate what it is that you mean. And that is my cue as a leader to say, wow, if they don't get what I just said in the meeting, I suck. So I have to change how I communicate. I have to learn, I have to get better at it. So situational leadership is definitely big. Like, what does the situation demand that you're in? Is it toughness, decision making, empathy, collaboration, communication, whatever that is? So I believe in leadership that works on that continuum of this scale of attributes that range from female to male, because different situations require different leadership attributes.
Right, I completely agree with you on this. Uh, so, I would like to ask you, like, what do you think is the future of gig workers? Like, given the financial crisis that's coming up, you think they would be able to survive this? How would they go about for that?
So I said that a crisis always comes in a threesome, right? So the first step is survival. So a lot of people are still in survival.
Yeah.
And survival is, how do I feed my family? Where do I live? Am I safe? So that's the first thing in a crisis you have to pay attention to. If that's not taken care of, people flip out, and rightfully so. The second part of a crisis is opportunity. So as you see, not everybody is suffering. Some people are hiring.
Yeah.
Hospitals are booming. PPE is booming. We are recognizing where our manufacturing troubles are. We bought too much from China. We didn't manufacture enough in-house, so we weren't equipped to handle the crisis. We relied on a supply chain that was treacherous, right? We have trust that we have to rebuild. So now in the second phase of a disaster, we look for opportunity. What are the opportunities? And you follow the money. So if you have to retool to manufacture something else, do that. Maybe that's the opportunity you waited for. If your business was that great, it didn't fall apart in the first place. So where are the opportunities for you? And a lot of people now, I see this, Akanksha, are going in this like, oh, I'm just going to wait and see. Oh gosh, I'm going to hope it's going to get back like it was. It will never get back to the way.
Yeah.
And the mental mindset is completely different. We are past the habit forming period. So, habit to form a habit, it's 21 to 30 days. We are now 3-4 times that duration of a habit forming. So we all have new habits. So you can't go back to habits that we had before because we already changed them like multiple times over. So where's the opportunity? So a leader now looks for the opportunity, and this is, pardon me, where you pull yourself, by the hair out and say, I need to really focus on my mindset because there is opportunity. People are thinking, how am I going to get people back to work? How am I going to get my business back up? How am I going to run my call center when I don't have, 500 people in one room sitting together when they're all working from home? What's the technology that's supporting that? Is this something that might be beneficial for me in the future to look into that model and continue with that model? So this is the moment to actively look for opportunity, because the recovery is inevitable. We've said this every single time. We set up the September 11th, it'll never be back the way it was. Well, it dipped and then it took off. We've said this every time a monsoon is particularly vicious, and we say, wow, we don't know how we're going to survive this one. We don't know when a hurricane hits. We don't know when an earthquake hits. And people are resilient. People are rebuilding. People are determined to come together. So use that momentum, find the opportunity, prepare for recovery.
Yeah. So I guess like people would find people who are, making most out of this situation right now. They would be looking out for those like who have, taken the situation and turned it around and made something successful out of it. I guess that's how you become a leader, when you try to think outside of the box and you get that
Yes.
thinking very right of doing something correct out of the wrong situation itself.
I did hear something really good. I'm going to give you this sort of as a thought-provoking idea. So I was listening to it, just incredibly smart woman who is now running some fancy Microsoft division, and she said, oftentimes it is not about thinking outside the box. Oftentimes it's about looking what is in the box and do something different with it. And I give you an example. So when you have children will go in your kitchen and they will take cups and brooms and things, and they create something completely different. They make a game out of household items. They're clearly not designed for that, but they do, and they have a blast doing it. So what if we have this curiosity to say, we're now inside the box. What if we deconstruct what's in the box and assume that everything we need is already there? So I did a talk for Johnson & Johnson's division, Janssen, which is their biopharmaceutical arm. So they are working on the COVID-19 vaccine and treatment. And so when I was brought on the team, I was asked to tell people that they had everything they need. They had all the technology, they had all the supplies, they had all the data. But it was my job to tell them to step up and think about what they could do with what they had, because we believed that they had everything that they needed. So that, I think, is more important right now, to look with what else can you do with what you have versus trying to be thinking outside the box, because we don't even kind of know
Where the
where
box is.
off the box is right now, right?
Yeah. So I really love that thinking inside the box and doing something with it. Thank you for that. And just to wrap up the interview, lastly, do you have any important sound bites that you would like to leave our audience with?
I always have lots of important things. I mean, at least I think that they're important. Um, Again, in a time like this, and in any time where we are required and asked for to step up, a leader steps up. You assume leadership. You
Yeah.
don't ask other people to give it to you. You assume leadership by stepping into this, by really thinking about how do you want to show up. And
Yeah.
when we look through our social media accounts and the unbelievable amount of negativity that's out there, it is so easy to fall into the negative mindset. And then all you see is more negativity. But what if what is called for right now from a leader is to give people hope and inspiration?
Yeah.
It's not always going to be like this. We will recover. It is impossibly difficult for so many people, but I believe in the resilience of those that are around us. I believe in the resilience and the love that we have for each other. And ultimately, I believe that people are good. It's just that the bad ones happen to be a lot more outspoken right now. So let's silence that
Yeah.
with this tsunami of goodness and support and inspiration for each other. That, I think, is what leadership is called for right now, because trust has been eroded. Mental mindsets are in bad shape. People are fearful. Lead them out of fear into hope, because you are that kind of leader. That's my message.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. And I absolutely loved our conversation. And I loved your positivity that you got into this. And thank you so much for that. I am sure that just like I enjoyed, our audience are going to enjoy it the same way. Thank you so much for your time and your views and your thoughts. You stay safe and stay healthy, and let's keep in touch.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.